John Morgan says the rabbit hole into the sovereign citizen thing, that is the most entertaining stuff to watch late at night, stoned as hell. Much love to you all always watching. We touched on that, the police video
I
last week.
watched one the other day. This guy is like in Wyoming, and so they pull him over. It comes up, and the guy has got his window cracked this far, and he's got a sheriff and a couple other guys out there. They pulled him over. He's got no tags. He doesn't have a driver's license, and he's given the guy's passport. And they keep telling him to get out of the car, get out of the car. And one guy says, comes up and tries to strong arm him and says, if you don't get out of that car, I'm going to break the window and I'm going to pull you out. He said, well, sir, he says, you do that and we'll be having a shootout here on the side of the road. And so every time he states something, this particular one that I was watching goes into the breakdown, and it just says like right, read the screen of because of this, and most of these things are these are all constitutional rights, and it's one of those deals where because like you don't he was telling them that he didn't have to have a driver's license
Right.
or he didn't have to have a tag because and he was stating the reasons and it went back to the fact that the police officers are basically contract workers for their municipalities and their job is to go out and collect revenue, and that's what a driver's license is, and he had a passport which is a United States ID. So it went on and on and on, and he kept, and finally they got on the phone and were talking to somebody, and I guess they were relaying the shit back and forth, and I think the person on the phone said, like this guy knows the, you know, he knows the bank code to the Illuminati's, and they just next thing you know, man, they're handing him his passport, and away he drove.
You're kidding.
No, but
That's
it's like there was another one. I don't know if he was either Indian or Pakistani, but like, you couldn't see him because he was filming it himself,
hmm
and the guy's telling him like he wants him to get out of the car. He goes, "Why do I have to get out of the car?" He says, you were following." I wanted you're getting a citation because you were following too closely behind that semi. He goes, well, what exactly, is the law? Like, how far is too closely?
right.
And the guy couldn't give it to him, and then he says, I need you to come out and uh, so he comes to the front. He says, "I need you to come out and come to the front of your car," which you don't have to do because you're not being arrested. So if you're stopped for a traffic citation, then when you're stopped, the first thing you do is say, "Why am I being withheld? Like, why did you pull me over?" And if they say you were speeding, then you say, "Okay." And at that point, if they ask you for uh, driver's license, proof of insurance, registration. That's all within that because he needs those things, to do his. But if as soon as he says get out of the car, no, you don't have to do that because you're not being arrested. It's like write me the fucking ticket so I can
hmm
go on my way. And here's one of the greatest things of this little rabbit hole I fell into. They always say that they want to give you a field sobriety test. There is no such thing as a pass fail in a field sobriety test. All you're doing is helping the police officer build his case against you. You don't have to do that. There's a couple of states that if you refuse to do the field sobriety test, that they will suspend your license. You'll have to go to court to get it unsuspended, but they won't.
Can't
I
you be
want
arrested for
no,
refusal?
no. His and because the whole thing is like the guy that they pulled over, he said finally he got a supervisor there, and then the guy went off on him. He's like, this asshole, and because the officer kept getting like in his face. He said, could you back away? Can you get back? Get you back off? He said, no, no. Well, all this shit's on the guy's body cam. So he just when the supervisor came, he got the supervisor's badge number and last name, and he just basically said that I would be subpoenaing the officer's body cam and his dash cam. Like, and there was another guy that they took him. He blew 000,
Right.
and he still got a DUI.
But how's that possible?
Well, I guess you could be under the influence of cannabis, you wouldn't blow anything.
Oh, right. Under the
But he didn't
influence
do.
doesn't mean
But
alcohol. Right.
he didn't do a field sobriety, and there was nothing. They just and this is like something that just goes on. It's an ongoing thing. Like they had like 11 cases in this town of people that basically just got their shit fucked up just because somebody one of the officers, and it was a revenue situation. Like they were basically told to go out and arrest people. Like just get as many people in as possible for revenue.
So, will there soon be, and I'm honestly asking, there has to be something in the works, some kind of test to determine like THC levels, or, I mean, short of a blood test? Is
Well,
there
but
any
cannabis
way?
can't. See, the thing with cannabis is cannabis can be. I mean, depending on your body fat, it can be in your system for 30 days.
That's true. It wouldn't prove impairment at the time of being
No.
pulled over. And that's tricky.
So
It can be a tricky one.
yeah. So that's number one. If you're stoned and they tell you you're speeding, they're bullshitting you. I don't know too many people that are stoned that are
Moving
like,
fast.
yeah, it's like I remember one time I was coming back from wrestling practice and I wasn't driving. My buddy was, and we were baked, and we get blue lit on I-75 going towards Atlanta. We're going north on 75 into Atlanta, and I had to go back to the strip club and get my tip out, and then my car was parked there. So we go back and we get pulled over, and the police officer walks up, and my buddy Todd puts his window down. He says, "Do you know how fast you're going?" He goes, "70." He goes, "Try 28."
Been there.
I was like, "Wow, like that, a boy."
Clayton Meeks says, Coffee's Gym. Hell yeah. I trained and competed for John's, talk about a character, Olympic lifting team. Would go to that World's Gym for cardio and girls. Used to see Rick Steiner at the World's Gym.
Rick always trained at Coffee's.
That's what he said, Coffee's Gym.
No, he said, I'd see Rick at fucking Worlds. Rick was always at Coffee's.
Oh, I'd see Rick at Worlds. Okay, right.
You see Rick. Rick and Scotty were always at Coffee's. The thing was, John just passed. I mean, within maybe the last 4 or 5 months, and he had a women's group in that gym. Like Colleen Coffee was in there. It's several. They beat the Chinese national team with a group of women from the gym. in a powerlifting contest.
Like locals from the gym?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I mean, we had at that time Dave Passanella was one of the first guys to squat 1,000 pounds. We had Curtis Leslie was in there. We had a bunch of just world class power lifters. Tony Pearson trained there, who was a pro bodybuilder. A bunch of the boys trained there.
What city is that in?
It was in Marietta,
Okay.
and then it closed and got moved someplace. I think it still moved. It just moved out of that. I think it was called Franklin Plaza, a little strip place there,
Mm-hmm.
little strip mall. It moved out of there. I'm pretty sure it was called Franklin. I trained there for probably, I'd say four or 5 years.
When you were down there, Georgia.
Then I moved over to where we used to. It was called La Park, and it was a condominium unit that somehow went belly up and turned into rentals. So my wife and I had a 2-bedroom there, but that was like Barry Windham and Mike Graham had like the penthouse. Johnny B. Bad, Mark Merrill, but Johnny B. Bad at that time. Robert Fuller lived there. The Armstrongs, uh, Tex and Mark lived there.
Those wrestling complexes that
Yeah,
were
it was
just
like
overtaken.
it was
Totally.
and that was when Mark was married to Rainey, Bronx
Sable.
Mrs. Lesser, yes.
Tizzy Tank
But
579.
you could walk to Luger and Sting's gym from our parking lot. Like you just had to walk up a little hill and you were right at Main Event Fitness. So it was like you couldn't beat it.
How many workers own fucking gyms? You had of the more prominent ones. You had
Flair
Hawk and Animal, right? They had the one up in Minnesota.
Flair had some Gold's gyms.
Yeah.
Let me think. Somebody told me that Hulk was thinking about opening a gym down the Clearwater area.
Wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
More consistent with the brand than karaoke, one would think. Or maybe both.
I don't know. I
Lift.
don't know. I'm not a karaoke guy, but I might have to go down there and sing a couple of ballads one day.
Well, please let me know when that's happening so I can get video for the show. Tizzy Tank 579. 2 things with grilled cheese. 1, substitute butter or margarine for mayonnaise. 2, always put a piece of ham, bologna, even some hash works with an over easy egg. Thank me later. P.S. Side of hash brown.
Not a sandwich guy.
Not a